Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome back to my channel. You guys, today is Merry Monday, and I have something very different for you. It's really quite the journey, but I wanted to be able to transfer my printables from the Twisted Paper studio to fabric. So I dug on the internet and I found a couple of ways. This took me over a week of testing and trying, and I'm not starting with my favorite method. I'm starting where I started. So I started with some flour sack towels from Walmart. This is a 10 pack that I had my hubby pick up. You could use white cotton fabric. I just didn't really have much. Muslin, I had a little bit, so I did use that. But yeah, I think you could use a lot of different fabrics, but they'd have to be light and not like that dark piece that I showed you. At least I don't think it would work on dark fabrics. It might. I could be completely wrong. Even though I've played with this a week, I can't tell you that I've got it all figured out, but I've got quite a bit figured out for you. So I took paper. Now, this is like a regular copy weight paper, 20 pounds, just printer paper with inkjet. So I'm working with an inkjet printer for all of these makes. Okay, so I just cut down my paper into different little sizes and images that I thought would be fun for making things. So I think these would be fun for making ornaments, tags, whatever you want to use fabric. I think they would really be great for like centerpieces of the front of your journal, so you can tie like the front of your journal into all the others. Okay, so this was the first method that I found, and honestly, it is my least favorite. I do not like this method, but I want to show you the journey because from doing this method, I took certain skill sets into the next method that I do like. Okay, so this is Mod Podge on a flour sack. So you just put a healthy amount. I mean, make sure you put a lot of Mod Podge on the image. You don't want to work it too much because that ink will move around, and smooth it out. I use this silicone brush for any glue projects, and I clean up my Mod Podge so I'll be able to open it next time. And yeah, what you're going to do is just glue all these down. Make sure you get your edges super, super good. The edges are the first thing to go. And then I trimmed off the excess fabric because what you do next is let this set for 24 hours. This is not for people who are lacking patience in their crafting projects. That would be me. You also don't do this. You don't just like start spraying all of them and getting them wet. I would spray one, maybe two at a time. You don't want them just sitting in a lot of water or sitting saturated, because I notice you'll get a lot more loss, image loss that way, and transfer of ink. So one thing you're probably going to notice is that as I start rubbing this, then the blue ink spreads. So you don't exactly keep that white crisp edge if that's something you're wanting. Again, this is messy. It's really not a great method. It probably works great with maybe laser prints because I think the ink transfers less. But there are so many things I did not enjoy about this process, and I want to share all of that with you. I'm not trying to start in a Debbie Downer place, but I want you to have realistic expectations if you try this method. I couldn't figure out when to stop peeling the paper back. And on almost all of the ones that I did like this, I lost some part of the image. See right there? It's so easy to do. You're going along fine, and then you lose a part of the image. And it happened every time. I thought, okay, let me try photographs like these Tim Holtz photos. Now, I don't know the process of which these are printed, but they feel like they're on photo paper. They're super thick. And I wanted to show y'all different like mediums and applications. So I grabbed these two Tim Holtz photos, and I'm adding again a good amount of glue on these. Like I am coating these in a layer of Mod Podge. These again, this was not a win for me. Will I use it while I use all these pieces? I think I will. I'm okay with the imperfections because, again, we are making junk journals, right? So I just made some junk to go in my junk journals. I promise I have a winning strategy, y'all, but you got to wait for it because, I mean, I really worked hard for all of this. Okay, so I lay down all of this glue on these two Tim Holtz photographs, and what do? I glue them onto the cheesecloth and I wait, dun dun dun, 24 hours before I go to spritz it with water and peel off the backs. When I had started this way, with all the videos I watched from lots of different people, they all use copyweight paper. But once I started working with the photograph paper, I was like, you know what? I think I want to print my printables on cardstock or a heavier weight paper and see what kind of results I get. With this, I get same results. So that lion right there on my right is a heavyweight cardstock. And still you can see all the blue around the lion. The image, I got to keep more of the image. I didn't lose as much of the image. So if you're going to do this method, if you're determined to make it work, for one, you're awesome. Two, use a heavyweight paper, use a lot of glue. That's the best I can give you on it. Go light when you're rubbing off the layers. Don't spray them too far in advance if you're trying to remove that backing paper. So with this heavyweight paper, this photo paper, I just wanted to get the first layer off. Then once I got that off, I spritzed it again to go in and get more of the layers off to expose more detail. But I will tell you, I was never able to get detail with these. Because if I kept rubbing, I was going to lose the image altogether. I was going to lose all the paper, and I didn't want to go down that road. So I had to accept that I just wouldn't have detail. And I'll bring these up close so you can see what I'm talking about. This is messy, messy, messy. See all that paper and your fingers just, I don't know. This wasn't the one for me. This may be a winner for you, and I think you have to kind of play with it to figure that out. I think I could have gotten slightly better results on the muslin with these, with this method, but I don't think it would have been much different, to be honest. I know this isn't cheesecloth, but this is a tea towel that it's got a really texturized surface, but this is as good as it would get for me. The other thing I don't like about this method is that you never feel like you've got it all rubbed off. Like no matter what, there's always paper peeling, that look of peeled paper left behind. I was never able to get that right. No matter what, I just could not make it happen. So there was a lot of life in between. I mean, we went and saw live nativity. We went to a menorah lighting. We did all these other things. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to try a new method. So let the angels sing. I printed these. And now this time I flipped, when I printed, I flipped it so the script is backwards. See how that Twisted Paper Studios is backwards? And like, I'm bringing in this matte gel medium. So a lot of people or a lot of videos suggested this technique, which I really, really like. So, I kind of started with what didn't work. Let's get into what really worked for me. So I flipped my images, I think horizontally, so that I could get the wording backwards on the printout. And that way, when I flip it over, the words will be legible. They won't be backwards. I love this method for lots of reasons. One, I have this matte gel that's old. It's so thick. It shouldn't be this thick, you guys, but it's just old and it needs to be used. So one, I have a product that I don't have to go buy. It's already in my craft room and I need to use it anyways before it just gets totally used up. There's not much waiting on this one, like 10 seconds if you have a heat gun, which I'm going to cover with you. At first, I wasn't going to bring in the heat gun. I didn't even think of using the heat gun. I didn't even think of timing it. I just kind of put this girl down, burnished her really well, and then I was like, oh, that's not working. Well, let me leave her and move on to the next. So then I cut out Santa. I do make sure, I'm sorry for the frog in my throat. We're a little bit sick around here. Sorry. But I just kind of burnished her really, really good. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to leave it. Just let it be, Bitty Penny. move on. So then I cut out my Santas and some of my other ephemera, and I'm leaving that a little bit exposed at the top so I have a pull area, if you will, like a way to pull the paper up off of the fabric. And even though my gel medium is really thick, I'm just putting on a thin coat. So that is the idea here. I don't want it to be goopy and super thick. I just want a thin coat, but I do want it well coated because I want this image to transfer. Now, I know not everyone has matte gel, okay, but let me tell you places you can get it. Hobby Lobby will have it, Michael's will have it, Amazon will have it. If you have local art stores, they're definitely going to have it. So it's accessible to most people. But I did try this also with Mod Podge, so stick around. If you don't have matte gel, you don't have to like click out. We're not done here. So I wasn't timing this. I was just kind of working with it because this was my first go. And I pulled back this image and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. What I love about this method is there's very little rubbing necessary. And you still get the crispness of the image. You get the color of the image. It stays really true to your printables. Now, I will tell you this too is like a nice color paper that's made for inkjets. It's not super thin. It's not a copy weight paper. You know, it's on a heavier side. It's not super heavy, but it's just not copy weight paper. And I get the best results with this. Now, you don't want to use like a photograph paper because that locks the ink in, and you don't want to lock the ink in on your printable when you're trying to transfer it. So don't print these on photograph paper. Print it on just like inkjet printer paper that's not super thin. I think if you have super thin, if you have copy weight inkjet paper, it'll be okay. You'll just have to try it. I'm just telling you what seemed to work best for me. Now, obviously, if you go buy a jar of matte gel, yours is going to be a gel and not a goop like mine. So maybe your results are going to vary. And that's just kind of how this sort of technique is. But I think it's worth a play. If you have the fabric, if you have Mod Podge or you have matte gel, and you want to be able to transfer your inkjet prints onto fabric, then this is worth a play for you. Even if you just kind of put it and save it for the future. Maybe you're not going to do it right now, but you're going to do it in the future. So let me talk just a little bit about Merry Mondays real quick. Merry Mondays is something that was started by Donna at Twisted Paper Studio. She's super sweet. She put together a design team. I'm one of the characters on it, and we just share inspiration with you on Mondays that throughout the year that is like Christmas makes. And I love this. I'm going to be really sitting down, kind of meditating on how I want to use Merry Mondays and what projects I want to accomplish, because every year about this time, I figure out that I haven't made enough, and I'm always in a rush at the wrong time of the year to make a bunch of stuff. So I really want to use this as a way of staying on track and making things throughout the year so that when the holidays come around, I'm not feeling rushed or panicked to make things for the holidays. That's really how I want to use Merry Mondays. And by what I'm doing right now, kind of doing a mass make with you guys, then that is the perfect kind of setup. So I won't be posting videos every Monday, but I will be posting some Christmas inspiration throughout the year on Mondays. But every Monday there will be inspiration if you follow the hashtag, which I have in the title of this video. So at this point, I decided, let me bring in my heat gun, because I felt like I needed a formula. I needed a specific amount of time to know how I could get the best print, because just guessing wasn't really working for me on those first three. I was getting different results, and I knew that that was because I wasn't timing myself. So I turned on my heat gun on the first lowest setting, and I hit this baby for 10 seconds, and I timed myself. I wanted to make sure that I kind of had a system. So for like 10 seconds, I heated it up, and I might have let it go a little bit longer on this one just because my heat gun was also heating up at the time. But I found 10 seconds was a really good amount of time. And bam, beautiful transfer. To me, that's a beautiful transfer. After everything I've been through, that is a beautiful transfer. Now, sometimes I do go in and rub some of the paper, the excess paper off, but I don't bring in water. I don't spray it. Don't spray it. Just use your finger and lightly rub off any of the paper that you don't want. And I find that it comes off well. The image doesn't break and tear. And oh, this is just such a superior method. So I do it again and again. I try it with different sizes. And this to me is the superior method of transferring your inkjet printables onto fabric. So, a nice coat, not too goopy, but, a nice coat of matte gel medium along with your image, and about 10 seconds with the heat gun. Now, I do burnish it every time. I think that's a really important part of the step because you want to get this really adhered to all the different fibers of the fabric, but once you've got it burnished, then just hit it with that heat gun, and you will have to play with it too. But I do suggest you set like a stopwatch or a timer or something, or count while you're doing this to make sure you don't overheat it. I find that the more you heat it, if you overheat, then more of the paper stays behind, and then you're having to rub off more paper. So, like this, like I left it on a little longer. And so now I'm having to do more work on this side of things to get that paper off. So just play with it. The other thing I really like about this method is that your fabric still feels like fabric. It's flexible, it's soft, it's really, it feels like it was just printed on there. So then I thought, okay, I've got my Mod Podge ladies and gentlemen out there, so they're not going to want to be messing with no matte gel because they don't have it in their stash. They've got Mod Podge. So I did try this method with Mod Podge. No, the results were not the same, but they were acceptable. In fact, I think this Santa turned out pretty darn good. Now with the Mod Podge, I did put a good coat on it, and it did seep through my fabric a little bit onto my glass mat. So work on like a silicone mat, a glass mat, some kind of surface parchment paper that you can, get glue on, and burnish it in. Gotta burnish it. This little tool I got from the Dollar Tree, y'all. It works great. It works great. So burnish it in. Do the same steps. Hit it with a heat tool. Give it 10 seconds or so. Check it. If you need a little more time, give it a little more time. But you're going to want to pull it before it's completely dry. If you wait till it's dry, we all know there's a lot of water and peeling and ink transfer and mess that you have to deal with. So, you don't want it to really fully dry on there. You just don't. So this Santa, I think, turned out really well. I probably, again, heated it a little too long. But the paper is still pulling off really well, and I have a great transfer. And I still have, I know you can't see Santa's face right now because there's some paper over it. So when I was rubbing it off, I went gently to rub off the paper around Santa's face because that would be really sad if I lost his face in this transfer, but I didn't. I think all the detail is there, the color, the richness is there, and this works. So if you have Mod Podge, you should give this a try. I really enjoyed it. So, you guys, this is really different. I don't have a finished project with you because I really put a lot of time and testing into the method. I wanted you to see the method. All of the printables that I'm using today are from Twisted Paper Studios, and I used a combination of her journal pages, and I just printed like 2 copies to a page and cut them out in ways that I wanted. And then I used ephemera that she has, so I just used a mixture. And here I did use a little bit of water. I just put a tiniest bit on my finger. I sprayed it on my glass mat, put it on my finger. I did not want this to get saturated. I didn't want my colors to bleed. So I just went really lightly and got off any excess paper. That way, just go super, super light and easy. Okay, so let's take a look at all of my results. I will tell you that with the Mod Podge method, I would never do it again, that original one. But here's the 2 products that I used. You don't have to use Liquitex gel medium, matte gel medium. You can use any brand. But yeah, I'll never do the whole Mod Podge, let it wait 24 hours and rub it off again. Because the other thing I felt like I had to do was go in and add Mod Podge on top of it. And this one I don't. This is really into that fabric and that gel medium. And it's so soft and so subtle. And it's just a superior method. These I had to put matte gel on so I didn't completely lose the image off of the fabric. I mean, sometimes it would just peel off in these pieces. I wanted y'all to see this, especially if you left them with a little bit of water on them to try to soften it more. I could never get all the paper off. It was just a complete frustration, really, you guys. But I hope by me doing this, it narrows down your frustration in the process, but that you still know that you can use Mod Podge and you can use different types of fabric. I'm still going to keep these. I'm going to use them in my stash. But yeah, I'm not a fan of those. I really like these. So I hope this video helps you. I hope you found it inspiring and that my process helps you if you do try this. I think it's so cool to be able to take our printables that we buy on Etsy, like from Twisted Paper Studios, and put it on fabric. It's a game changer. I would love to hear in the comments down below like some ways that you would use these. I'm gonna put all these in my ephemera folder and I'll have them ready to incorporate with some of my Monday makes. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday season. We are having so much fun here in our house, celebrating the season and all the things that matter, spending time with family, and I hope that you are too. It's going to be really fun to kind of keep the spirit of Christmas going all year. I honestly get sad when Christmas ends every year, so I love that I'll have Merry Mondays to keep the spirit going. I'm even going to keep these papers that I transferred on the matte gel with because they have so much texture to them, and I still think that they can work inside my journals. So I also like that nothing is wasted there. You guys, thank you for spending your time with me. I know there's a lot of hustle and bustle at this time of year, but you're here with me, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.